Watch this video to learn some uncommon ways to naturally increase dopamine in your brain. Let's get it.
Yeah. I'm inspired. I'm inspired.
Hey there guys, what's happening? My name is Sumit Chatterjee from the Flow Zone Academy, and I'm a flow state coach, which means that I help you feel better and perform better. Today I'm talking all about ways to increase dopamine in the brain naturally. These are kind of more uncommon ways. Everybody kind of knows, get more sunlight, or like exercise, or like meditate. Like, we know these things, but maybe you haven't heard of some of these methods, which are really quick boosts that I personally use. Because the thing about it is, if you have issues like depression, ADHD, specifically ADHD, because in ADHD people, dopamine is actually underproduced. So certain drugs like Ritalin or Adderall and these kinds of things, they're actually like amphetamines, right? They're there to speed up the mind. It's a strange paradox, right? Because it's like, okay, these are things that narcoleptics actually take, like modafinil and like Ritalin and Adderall. Like, these are things that people who have problems like falling asleep during the daytime, they need to enhance their brain's focus, right? So how come somebody with hyperactivity disorder, right, needs more of that? Well, it's all in the way that it works with task processing. Basically, when you get that extra dopamine in the brain, it actually creates that opportunity for that selective focus to amplify. One great technique that I like to use is basically this idea of open monitoring, okay? Some people call this technique Hakalau, or using your peripheral vision, whatever you want to call it, man. Whatever you want to call this technique, man, it's useful, okay? Basically what you want to be doing is like using your peripheral vision. So if you have your arm on a side like this, kind of wiggle your fingers and see if you can access that point while looking forwards, looking straight. That's like testing out your peripheral vision. Now, the more good you get at this, the less attentional blinking you'll get. What is attentional blinking? Let's say that you get a task right, an attention-focused task right, like Where's Waldo, right? And you find Waldo. Now you're going to get this celebratory attentional blink where your attention will be so on point, and you'll celebrate that basically you can't find Waldo in the next page because of that, right? So people with ADHD, they have more attentional blinking in a sense, okay? But if you practice this open monitoring technique of using your peripheral vision, guess what? You will not only find Waldo, but you'll find his little friend next to him that you also want to spy, or something like that, right? So basically, this is what I'm saying, is this open monitoring technique is a great way to amplify that dopamine. And it's just a great technique in general, because if you're stressed out, if you're constantly focusing on one thing, if you have addictions and things like this, oftentimes we zoom in, we narrow our focus, right? We get this kind of horse blinder gaze. But if we keep that wide angle gaze, that panoramic vision, it actually helps us. And this actually is what helped us as hunters as well, right? Using our peripheral visions, using our focus in this way, where it's much more this wide angle gaze, this focus of like the cinema effect of like, okay, there is this wide angle lens, right, that we can tap into. And hey, if we improve our alertness, it's going to help our dopamine, obviously, right? The next thing I would say is omega-3s, probiotics, right? High tyrosine foods. These are really great things to just do in general, not just for dopamine production. If you're having activities, ADHD people, they usually have like bad habits. Not saying that all of them do, but like, drinking coffee, or, smoking cigarettes, or, cocaine, these kinds of things, because there are other ways to get that kind of intensely focused attention through a chemical supplement, right, that they're getting. Caffeine isn't too bad, but then again, it's like some people are drinking like 7-8 cups a day, right? So one way that I naturally produce dopamine is doing a victory dance, okay? You know that like a lot of sports athletes do this, right? When they score a touchdown, when they score a goal in soccer, when they do something epic, right? They knock the person out. There's a little bit of a celebration dance that they do, right? Little victory dance, a little, this is what I'm about. That's right, man. That really helps you. improve your dopamine. That little victory dance that you can do for yourself, celebrate those moments. Celebration really brings this about, right? The next thing is, of course, you have listening to music, but what I would say is anticipating listening to music. So you have this song in mind. Let's say you're waiting in line somewhere, but you have this song in your mind that's just like, man, I remember the melody of the song and the lyrics. I just want to look it up, man, when I get back home. Ooh, that's going to put you into dopamine boost, right? Because you're like really excited to listen to that music and let go and enjoy it. These are great for if you want to focus, right? Dopamine is used, it's a motivation chemical. It's a anticipating reward, right? So it's great for if you want to focus. If we don't have enough of it, it's going to be difficult for us to focus, or we feel scattered. Now, it's interesting because a lot of ADHD people, I have mild ADHD too, if you've noticed. But if you notice in ADHD people, they're very good at one thing, or they're very good at certain tasks that they're really, really interested in. It's only they have trouble doing the things that, are mundane or regular day-to-day stuff, or things that they're really not interested in. I mean, as we're adulting, we gain responsibility, and we know that, okay, there's certain things that we can do to, I guess, hijack that process. One of the great ways that I like to do is, like, let's say you're doing a boring task, you talk to yourself, or you convince yourself, I mean, this is again from my book TPM, but you convince yourself that it's more interesting than it is, and you actually convince your brain that you love that task, that you love it, that you're just obsessed with that boring thing, right? You're just like, man, I'm expert at this video game of life. Oh, bring it on, right? Like, let's say it's just some annoying thing like vacuuming. You're like, oh man, I'm gonna make this so fun for me. I'm gonna win the Olympic medal in vacuuming. Let's get it. The next way that you can frame this, and something that I've found is really cool, is in fact just hugging someone, right? Just again, I know we're in social distancing times now, but just giving someone a high five, or like that physical touch, creates that dopamine, because there's an anticipation that, that can raise the vibes in a certain sense, right? So let's say that you kind of give, even if you're just like a handshake, right? It creates and generates that feeling of spontaneity and that emotion. It can't be like pre-planned. It can't be like, I'm going to high five now. It's like, it's got to be from that spontaneous place where you just kind of give people a physical touch, right? It's just like a hand on the shoulder, something like this, not in a creepy way, no weird kind of touches, right? But basically just like friendly, like a kind of a friendly touch, just like, yo, like, this is my homie right here, like, punch him on the arm very slightly, kind of dap him on the back, a fist bump, right? These kinds of little things really help with the dopamine production, right? And being around nature, obviously, but again, a lot of people are in these closed doors, and we sit a lot. So we sit around a lot, man. We sit around a lot. If you're working all the time, you're sitting around a lot. So just the mere fact of you optimizing your levels of energy throughout the day, you want to be standing more. Okay, standing. Just practice standing and working. Like, have a standing desk instead of a sitting desk. And, again, if you're just practicing standing around, it's going to be a very great activity for you, instead of sitting around, which is sedentary, which creates more fatigue. And you want to be using your legs, right? So if you're standing, I even love, like, in terms of working out, if you have a pull-up bar or something like this, just hanging on it. I got this from Ido Portal. I love that exercise, just like hanging. It's so much fun, guys. Like, once you get the hang of it, ooh, I made a joke, mommy. Once you get the hang of it, it's effortless. Like, you start doing it more and more, and it affects your posture. Last one that I'm getting an idea about is like doing a very detail-oriented task, right? So like, let's say that you have to create a certain bionicle type thing, or you're making something out of wood, a very precision-based tasks, right? Where you use your flow state. Maybe you collect replicas of planes or like ships or something, and you have to really, really fine-tune it. So like one false move and the Jenga tower crumbles, almost like that. That detail-orientedness is really going to improve that dopamine, because again, you're focusing your brain, right? You're you're amping up that effect of like really fine-tuning things. So if you have a task like that you really need intensely focused attention on, and you're just like, you know, like sewing something together, or just like some very intricate, detail-oriented task, it's really going to help you, give you that dopamine boost, you know. And of course you can take some supplements and all these things, but it's cool to know that, hey, I can kind of, you know, have this song in the back of my mind, and that's going to boost my, you know, dopamine. Or hey, I'm going to high-five my friend just spontaneously, and that's going to help my dopamine, right? It's kind of cool to notice this and just be able to amp it up, I guess, in a sense. So, you know, tell yourself the story that you're winning, and always reframe to that story that you're winning. Even if you're not winning in life, reframe that story, right? That you are winning. And that's the best advice I can give you for boosting your dopamine. I know a lot of people talk about dopamine detox. I mean, there's not a lot of science behind this, guys. I mean, this is a very self-help woke term nowadays that people use about dopamine detox. Of course, it helps to stay away from things that, you know, stay away from bad habits and things like this, or addictions. However, at the same time, you know, you don't want to overdo it. You don't want to go cold turkey and kind of mess your brain up and have it go through withdrawal and have it be super confused. The main thing is just, hey, you want to get to that maintenance and sustainability with this thing, right? That's what I want for you guys, you know. I want that slow, solid improvement where you start amping yourself up and getting that momentum back and getting the energy back and things like this. So hope this video helps you out today. Have an incredible rest of your day. May the flow be with you and stay legendary. Let's get it today. Boom.